When it comes to seeing and hearing spirits, the question of today's episode is, how is this happening? I saw a flash, I saw something out of the corner of my eye, or I saw a spirit right in front of me, or I saw a spirit in my mind. How is that happening? Like, what's the functionality? What's really going on? And this topic was sparked from a question that came in from Kimberly. Kimberly says, "Hi, Bo. Can you explain how a light from the other side can take a physical form that we can see?" Absolutely, Kimberly. Love it. Sparked my teaching vibes. So that's what we're going to do today. This is going to be a teaching video. Well, not necessarily. Maybe just an informational video. The more you know. Let's get into it.
This podcast is brought to you by the SAGE Method, the most comprehensive and down-to-earth intuitive development training available. Join thousands of students across the world for a 7-week journey to uncover your natural, beautiful, and strong intuition. Visit us at thesagemethod.com for more information.
This is fun. I love talking about the how things work. It's a huge part of my training course, actually. It's a huge part of the SAGE method. I've been teaching that for 17, 18 years, something like that, because I believe strongly. I've experienced it with myself and many others. We all have different learning styles, but I believe when we understand how something works, we can better utilize it. We can experience it with a little bit more of a foundational experience. Like, okay, this is what's going on. And now that I know what's going on behind the scenes, now I can utilize that in some way. Same with intuition. When we understand some of those things that a lot of us don't talk about, like how we really see, because intuitives don't always see crystal clear, perfect, like they're looking at a movie screen. When we understand little things like that, and we can step into it with, I don't know if it's a little bit more confidence, I don't know, a little swing in our intuitive step or something like that, but we can step into it with that knowledge under our belt, and it makes it easier to experience it, access it, harness it, fill in the blanks. So this question really sparked it for me because I was like, ooh, we get to talk today about how something works. And I always love that. So if you're new to the channel, this is a great one to join in on. Great one to join in. It's, like I said, the more you know. So please hit the follow button or the subscribe, because it helps me reach more people. And that's kind of my job. It's kind of my job. So help me out with that. For those that have been here for a while, welcome back, my friend. Welcome back. Okay, today then we are talking about how it is that we can see spirits or experience spirits. And I'm going to have to break down a couple of concepts in here and then apply them. I'm going to give you a couple of examples. There's one story I want to tell you about myself in a drugstore. There's definitely a story I want to tell you about my ex-husband. That's kind of juicy. But anyway, there's a couple stories I want to tell you in here too as examples. But I know you've had your own experiences as well. Let's start with saying this. There are unlimited possibilities out there. So today I'm going to talk about 2 ways that we can be seeing spirits. So 2 of the bigger category possibilities of what's happening to you when you see a spirit. But I want us to always remember there's unlimited things that can be happening, unlimited. But these 2 are going to cover 2 of the bigger odds of what's going on when you see or feel or hear a spirit around you. Okay, so the first one's going to be, I want to talk about the molecules, and I want to talk about the space in between the molecules. Then I want to branch off as to what can be happening with that helps you to be able to see a spirit. So there's a lot to it. Let's start with this. This physical world is built up of molecules. The molecules are the solid parts of the world. But there is a ginormous amount of space in between each molecule. So while we've got our physical body, this desk I'm sitting at, the camera, they're made up of molecules, which creates a solid formed structure. There is always space in between molecules. Molecules, I love to describe it this way. Did you go to like a holiday and your great aunt like made that Jello dish that had the floating fruit in it? Okay, the fruit are the molecules, and the Jello is source. The space in between the molecules is source. A better way to say it, a more accurate way to say it, is that the molecules are within source. They're like floating in source. And they are migrating together to create this, moving this way to create this, bonding in this way to create this, but there's always space in between. So this, another way to say that, again, is this physical world is built within source. And while it's natural for us to say, the other side, or we go over there, or, source, we talk about it like it's a location somewhere else, we're actually in it, right? Best start believing in it because you're in one. So you're in it, submersed in it. I mean, let's face it, you're just a bunch of chunks of fruit floating in the jello. That's pretty much my best analogy. With that said, spirit is in source, spirit's in the jello. And you and I walk around in our, cute little human bodies, and we look at the molecules. We are always paying attention, not to the space between the molecules, but to the molecules. The physical world catches our attention. This is why, one of my favorite examples, you can see something out of the corner of your eye really clearly. And when you turn to look at it, it's gone. That's because your peripheral is blurred. Your peripheral is not focused in on the solid, on the molecules. It's a relaxed vision. It's defocused. And when we defocus, that's when our attention can go to the space between the molecules. If you've ever witnessed a reader, live or on video reading a medium or a psychic, they look like they're kind of dazed. And not dazed, that's pretty strong. Wow, that was dramatic. But they look like they're just sort of staring at nothing. And they're just sort of, their eyes are just sort of like kind of wandering. And this is because they're letting go of the agreed upon reality. They're letting go of focusing in on the molecules, and they're looking at the space in between the molecules. So if the space in between the molecules, which is easiest to access through being defocused, like letting go of the material stuff around you, trying to forget that the material stuff around you is around you, then you're able to see source. Spirit is in source. So when you see a spirit out of the corner of your eye, it's defocused. You're seeing source, not molecules. When you allow yourself to relax, or you're distracted in a moment, and we're going to get to the solid form spirits, I promise. Right now, we're talking about when we see a spirit that's either blurry or hazy, or for me, a lot of times spirits can look like they're in a heat pattern, almost like a heat pattern on a road, but it's more the shape of a person. For some people, they see like flickering lights, or they might see like a cloud-like shape, or what kind of looks like wind moving through the air. These are all spirits moving through source, and you witnessing a spirit in source. And you're not focusing on the material world. And then you say, well, I've never purposely defocused, but I've seen a spirit. This means that you've been in a room. Let's say the room is, 12 by 12, right? A feet squared, meter squared, doesn't matter. You're in a room. And if your energetic system says there's a spirit in front of you and you feel it, we're going to get into the energy connections as well, and you feel it, your natural motion is to look at the space where a person would be standing. When you feel like there might be a spirit in the room, you don't turn and look at the curtain. You don't turn and look at the wall. You don't turn and look at the picture on the wall. You look, natural instinct, at the space where spirit would be standing. And do you know what you just did? You defocused. Think about it. Look right now. Look over across the room at an area where nobody's standing, and look as if you're trying to see the person standing where no one's standing. Notice how you defocus. Notice how your physical eyes aren't sharply focused on the wall. They're not sharply focused on the table. This is what's happening. So in between these molecules, we have spirit. And when we start to focus on that, we can more closely step into their vibration, to put it that way. So here's another way to lay that out. Earth and physical objects are vibrating slower, right? And on a lower base than spirit. Spirit vibrates higher, faster. So when we defocus and we start to focus in on source, which is at a higher vibration, we're pulling ourselves into that higher vibration. It's easier for us to see this. I'm going to give you another way to think about this. Think about the molecules as molecules, right? They're little bits of solid. Think about that space in between the molecules being filled up with huge number of clear marbles, just packed, like your whole room that you're in right now. You've got every molecule that's solid, but then the non-solid area of the room is filled with trillions of clear, empty marbles. And if spirit wants you to see something, because spirit, right? Let's bring one into this story, right? Uncle Earl. Okay. Uncle Earl is in source because he passed away, which is very sad. But Uncle Earl's in source and he wants you to see him, see a faint image of his body that you would recognize. Now, Uncle Earl isn't in a physical body. We have to acknowledge that. So it's not like he can just throw a body on real quick, show up in the room and be like, hey. He needs to project that imagery to you so you can see it. All right, we've got a whole room full of molecules, and in between all these molecules are trillions of little marbles that are clear and empty. And Uncle Earl fills up a bunch of these little marbles, these little space holders with different shades of color, different shades of whatever. And until it starts to form something. And it looks like him. And he's standing within that space. He's energetically making it happen. So it is him, but it's almost like he's painting a watercolor painting for you in these little marbles so that you can see something. This is why when you see something in front of you that's not there, like a spirit shows up, most of the time they'll show up for a brief moment and then it'll fade. Another brief moment, it'll fade. It's artwork being given to you energetically to show you this. The Uncle Earl can also paint a picture within these molecules in source of a dog that he loved. Or he can paint a picture of a scene of the house that he lived in. This is some of what's happening in source. This is one of those things where you have to talk about it knowing that we're talking about a concept of what's happening. So the general overall of this is that Uncle Earl in spirit form is energetically painting something for you to see that is of his essence in source, and you're defocused, so you're seeing the painting. I hope that makes sense. So that is one way that we can see. That is usually the kind of moment where you see it outside of yourself. That's more what I'm talking about, that you're really tapping into source and just seeing in between those molecules. And it's not, I want to really emphasize this. It's not that Uncle Earl is standing off to your left and he's showing an image of himself off to your right. His act of doing this is his energy. So you are seeing him. It's just a matter of helping you see what you know to see. Okay, so that's one way of describing it, where we talk about the molecules and the space in between. Let me tell you my story on this one. There's only been a handful of times that I've seen something absolutely solid. And this one time is never going to leave me, and I will remember it forever, but because it creeped me the hell out, and I got to tell you, I was really mad. I was not happy about it. So I was at a drugstore, a small one in a strip mall. I think it was in New Hampshire. Yeah, I was in New Hampshire. And it was the kind of store where there's only one door in and out, and it's a small enough store that there was only like 6 aisles, and there's one cashier between you and leaving the door. So you have to walk around the cashier to go out the only door. All right, I'm in there and I'm shopping and I'm looking for, I don't even remember what I was looking for. And a man comes down the aisle, and this man is solid. Yes, spoiler alert, he ended up being a spirit, but there was not an ounce of him that looked transparent. This might as well have been a man just walking out day to day. And he was doing that creepy thing. And I'm kind of chuckling because, like, every woman that's watching this or hearing this goes, oh, yeah, you don't have to say more. I got it. So that was happening. And I was uncomfortable. So I went over to the next aisle. And he walked to the end of that aisle and he was like looking around it at me. And I'm like, I'm out. I'm done. I'm come back and do this another day. But I had a couple objects. So I'm going to go to the cashier and then pay for them. And then I'm going to leave. Meaning, while I'm checking out, I know he's still in the building. So when I leave, I can go skippity doo out to my car and forget that that ever happened. All right. I pay for the objects. I walk outside. Mind you, nobody has left this store in the time that I've been paying for these objects. One cashier, one table. Nobody's walked around me to leave. I walk out the door. I look to my right. There's a park bench in front of the store, and this guy's sitting on it. And I had a moment of panic, the human moment, because it's so solid. I couldn't have guessed. I had a moment of human panic of like, all right, now I got to figure out how to get to my car. Or do I go to another store, right? Because he's made me uncomfortable. And then I went, no, this is in the middle of a strip mall. So even if you went out the back, you would have had to jog almost a mile to get around this dang thing. And I'm like, there's no way. And I looked at him and I knew, and it clicked. And the minute it clicked with me, you're not alive, he disappeared right in front of me. Like, and I say it like that because it freaked me out. Because it was the first time I had ever seen a spirit that I would have assumed was a living person. So I'm standing there startled. I walk to the car. I might be mumbling some frustration. And I remember getting in the car and just shaking it off, doing GCP, ground clear protect, going on with my day. But I've had something like that happen less than a handful of times in 20 years. It's extremely rare. And if you say, okay, well, what is that then? And this is going to segue into the other one. I will tell you, that is manipulation of the space in between the molecules. That is a fine art spirit who has got a level of artistic skills to paint those clear marbles so well that you would not know the difference between those marbles and the molecules. This tends to be, and this is only my opinion, I don't have I could put a survey out there and see like what other people experience, but I tend to, because I've done crossing over work for so many years, I tend to see this happen with spirits that have been in the in-between for a very long time. This is not a male spirit that had crossed over and was doing this. No spirit who's crossed over would make somebody feel uncomfortable like that. It's just not part of the higher collective good. It's not part of the plan. So this was a spirit that was definitely stuck in the in-between. Did I cross him? No, I wasn't in the mind frame for it. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be very real. I was not about to be a hero. I was a little bent. So, and after that, I'm not going to look for him either. I just went on my way. No excuses, Bo. I know we're not perfect, but this was a spirit that had been stuck, that had not crossed over. He was the exact same person mentally as he was on Earth, as he, was in the in-between. And he had probably been there for a very long time. And when you see objects move or when you see something that solid, typically, I know there's all possibilities, but typically that's a spirit that has remained in the in-between for long enough to be able to navigate it that well, to be that skilled at art of painting those molecules or the space in between the molecules, the marbles in between. Okay, that leads me into talking about something else that could be happening because there's a conjunction here. The other thing that can be happening is that we could be sharing energetic space with a spirit. So this is what I want you to do. I want you to imagine you've got your physical body, right? Picture it. You are looking so good today, right? You've got that physical body. You are walking around in an energetic body that's kind of like a kick-ass spacesuit, right? It's like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man kind of spacesuit that encapsulates your physical body. So your physical body is within your energetic spiritual body. This means that your energetic spiritual body is floating around you like a cloud. This means that when you interact with a spirit who is in essence now just an energetic spiritual body, whether they're crossed over or not, this applies to all spirits. They're like a cloud of energy. You're a cloud of energy. Inside your cloud is your physical body. They just don't have that one physical body inside their cloud, right? So you got cloud one, cloud two. Cloud two, which is you, has a physical body in it. Cloud one, which is the spirit, doesn't have a physical body in it, right? But let's just focus on these clouds of energy. So when a spirit's cloud overlaps within yours, and it's not taken over, we're not talking about all that today, that's a different day. But when there's an overlap, when a spirit, the way I say it is, shares space with you, communication passes between the two of you. Communication can pass between the two of you. You can feel what they were like. You can get intuitive messages from them. This can be done from long distance as well. That's a whole nother topic. But for now, we're just talking about you and a spirit in a room. So this cloud can overlap with each other. And when that does, there's a couple of really cool things that can happen. First off, you can feel what they feel, so they can make you feel something. Secondly, they can trigger your intuition in a way. Here's the next fun story. They can trigger your intuition in a way where they can trigger your nervous system. Very popular question is, somebody got scratches from a spirit, or somebody felt like a spirit touched their shoulder, or maybe even pushed them from behind, something like this. Wow, I'm coming up with some really bad examples. Let me start over with that. Maybe a spirit pats you on the head, or gives you a hug, or gently touches your hand out of love. When you get a physical feeling, that is the spirit setting the intent of affecting your nervous system in such a way that your nerves react. They don't have a physical body where they can actually scratch you, but they do have your nervous system that they can work with for your cellular structure to react to. So this is the story, and this is a funny one. My ex-husband, we were married at the time that this happened, but he's now my ex. We were in the living room. It was just us. It was the middle of the day, and I saw a spirit go through the house. Now, he wasn't open intuitively, but he had enough experiences that he's like, yep, this stuff's real. So, because I guess you can't live with somebody that long who's that active in the spiritual world and not have experiences. Okay. In the living room, him and I standing there. I don't remember what we were doing. And I saw a spirit cruise through the house, came in through the living room all the way out. And then the ex says, was that a spirit? And I was like, dang, you saw it. And he was like, yeah. And then he got a little cocky. He was like, well, you tell that spirit to stay out of our house. It wasn't even our house. It was my house. Tell him to stay out of my house. And I was like, what? Because I'm like, it's just a spirit, man. And he was like, you tell him to stay out of the house. Next thing I see is this spirit come back in. Next thing I see is my husband at the time drop down to the ground with a Charlie horse in his thigh. And he said that. He's like, I got a Charlie horse in my leg. And I'm like looking at the spirit like, what are you doing? And I'm about to stop it. And then the ex goes, I'm serious, get out of my house. And then the next thing you hear is that my ex go, ow. And like the spirit had almost like Charlie horsed a little bit more, right? And I was like, dude, just say you're sorry. Like, just say you're sorry. Let this go on. He's like, no, ow, right? Fine. The ex says, fine, I'm sorry. And then you could see the look on his face. My ex stood up. He had a look on his face like, I don't even want to know this is real. And he walked out of the room. So immediately after apologizing, the spirit went, okay, and stopped triggering his nervous system, his nerves. And then that one I was, able to cross over. So it all worked out fine and dandy. And we did chuckle about that one for a little bit. no harm, no foul. But it is possible for a spirit to cause you to have a physical sensation. Here's a sweet story. I'll give you another one that's a little nicer, because that spirit clearly wasn't crossed over. If he was crossed over, he wouldn't have got so bent out of shape and decided to have this like little man fight, right? But here's a sweet one. My partner today, love of my life, we've been together now for like 9 years. And a couple of years into being together, I wanted to get a dog. And I hadn't had a dog for a number of years. And it was been like 3 years, 4 years since I had a dog. And I said, I really want to get a dog. I think we should get a dog. And he had never had a dog. And he's in his 50s. So he's never had a dog. He's like, all right. So we got this dog. His name was Francis. Francis was old. This was a senior dog. This dog was so old. How old was he? He was so old that when we asked the vet on the first visit about how old she thought he was, she said, he's just old. We got it. So Francis was with us for only 6 months, but he bonded with Terry, my partner. And it was a couple months after his passing, we had a vet come to the house, all of that. And then he passed and he crossed over. A couple months after that, Terry mentioned that he felt Francis like kind of licking the top of his head, like sniffing and licking the top of his head. And I'm like, that's wonderful. So we're going to use that example to reiterate the cloud scenario. So Terry's sitting on the couch and he's got his cloud around him. And Francis, who's now on the other side, cutest little dog, we called him Hardcore Parkour because he never wanted to go to the bathroom on anything other than a hill. But this little puppy's now on the other side. And so now he's a cute little cloud. And his cloud comes in and overlaps with Terry's cloud. And the intent of the dog is for Terry's nervous system to say, hey, you're getting a kiss on the top of the head. So we'll end with that one. That was going to be a much better way to say it. So when we share energetic space with a spirit, we can get communication, we can get physical sensations. And I will say this because I can feel a couple of us saying, okay, well, wait a minute, that last example you gave of, the Charlie horse, I don't want that to happen to me. Here's the deal. Use something called GCP, Ground, Clear, Protect. If you don't know what that is, look for the link. I've got a free course. I've been literally giving people this free training course for GCP for 15 years or more. So GCP is a technique. It's free. It's simple. It takes 5 seconds to do once you get good at it. It's an intent exercise, super easy. Ground, clear, protect. What that does is it says only that which is for my highest good can be allowed in, and that which is not for my highest good is not allowed in. So as you can see, my current man uses GCP, my previous man didn't. So it's something for you though. It's light to joke about it, but in all seriousness, it's for you. It's a game changer. It makes your highs higher and your lows a little less low. You run into less things that you shouldn't have to tolerate or don't have to tolerate. Doesn't fix your life, but it makes it a whole lot better. So odds are that you're probably not going to get, a spirit who's in the mood to give somebody a Charlie horse. You're probably more so going to have your pet be able to more easily come into your energy field and give you a little kiss. So these are some of the ways that spirits can communicate with you. There's other ways, absolutely. There's other situations that can happen. They can, when they share energy space with you, they can also trigger memories. And it's not that you're seeing the memory, you're seeing let's go back to Uncle Earl, right? So Uncle Earl comes and visits you, and instead of him manipulating the spaces in between, let's say this time his energetic cloud is sharing space with your energetic cloud, sort of like leaning in, like putting his head on your shoulder kind of thing to say hi. This time, what he's going to do is he's going to set the intent to spark a memory of yours, to show you something that he wants to show you. The memory could be of him, it could be of a place or a car, or it could even be his voice. So a lot of times when we hear a spirit, we're really sharing that space and we can hear what they're saying because they're reminding us of what it sounds like to say this one particular sentence. Because they don't have a physical mouth, they don't have physical vocal cords, but they do have the heart intent to pass this information along to you. Okay. Your task really isn't one this time. I guess it's just to absorb all of that. No, I got one for you. I want you to sit 3-4 feet in front of a blank wall, and I want you to relax your gaze so that you defocus and you look at the space between you and the wall, perhaps the space where somebody might be standing. And then just stay open to see what your intuition does. Play with that for a week and then come back and tell me about it. Okay, I will see you next week.
This podcast is brought to you by the SAGE Method, the most comprehensive and down-to-earth intuitive development training available. Is this your year? Is it finally your time to increase your intuition, bring in more abundance, and experience the bliss you deserve? If yes, then join thousands of students across the world for a 7-week journey to uncover your natural, beautiful, and strong intuition. Visit us at thesagemethod.com for more information.